today I'd like to speak about selling 3D models online, and we will be very, very open here and share as much data as we can. So, but before, I'll briefly introduce CGTrader and what we do. So CGTrader is a 3D model marketplaces. Does any one of you use 3D model marketplaces at all? Okay. So you know the basic principles. So we run one of the largest marketplaces globally with over 600,000 3D models and more than 1 million 3D designers in the community. Now, the way it works for those who are not familiar is that designers upload their 3D models and customers can purchase them, thereby saving time and resources. We also have a marketplace for 3D jobs where customers can order custom 3D models as well. Now, we always pride ourselves at CGTrader for being a designer-friendly marketplace. We think that designers should focus on creating their art, and we try to do our best to help them with all other areas. So this has been our principle since the founding. And therefore, we offer the best royalties in the market and also very open approach to the marketplace. So today, I would like to talk about selling 3D models, and we will cover that from all different angles. Buyers, who are the buyers of 3D models? Who are the sellers? What kind of sellers sell 3D models? Also, what are the best practices if you are considering selling 3D models? And then I will also show some data from the marketplace in terms of which categories and which types of models sell best. And finally, then we'll cover a little bit what we see as the trends going into the future. Are any of you selling 3D models already on any marketplace? No. Anyone thinking about it? Okay, great. All right, so I hope this presentation will help you, understand the best ways to do that and the best ways to get started. So just like in any other business, when you start selling something, the most important thing is to understand the buyers. In 3D model marketplaces, there are several reasons why buyers use them. The most common one would be saving time and resources. Very often our buyers come under tight deadlines and they need to get that model into a project as soon as possible. This is quite common, and therefore it's very important that the model can be used immediately and can fit the buyer's pipeline. Now, another reason why people use 3D model marketplaces is that they might not be 3D designers themselves. This is quite common in the gaming community. So many game developers dream or create beautiful games, but they don't necessarily have the skills to produce artwork necessary for that. So this is a little bit different motivation. For them, it's more important to get 3D models that are consistent in a pack and with multiple variations of the asset. And they are often more budget conscious. Finally, some buyers prefer to focus on the more interesting parts of the workflow, such as visual effects, animation, and just general work on their project rather than modeling assets that they can purchase. So this can really help to speed up the process for them and also free their hands to work on what matters to them. Now, who are these buyers? So we've looked at the data of our customer base, and we see that the top 5 industries of customers that buy on CGTrader are video production, advertising, architecture, gaming, and more recently, software development companies. We are also seeing growth in virtual reality and augmented reality projects and companies that also contribute and demand a large volume of these 3D models. However, if you look at the total customer base, actually there is a wide variety of people who use 3D models, and they can come from fields like as diverse as medical, event management, aerospace and defense, and so on. And in terms of geographies, we currently have customers from 160 countries, so it's a very, very global market. But top markets in terms of buyers are the US and Western Europe. Now, these are the industries where these customers are coming from, but what kind of companies do they work for? We analyzed our customer base and looked at the size of the companies that they are coming from. And we see that there is a wide distribution from really freelance artists, one-man shops, up to Fortune 500 companies. And in terms of Fortune 500, we found that 1/5 of them already used CGTrader. So in companies of this size, there are definitely 3D artists who need 3D models. Now, the industries and the companies, the company sizes might differ, but what we found that the actual job titles and positions of these buyers, they are quite consistent. So number one and most common job title is CEO, founder, manager, and that's related to the fact that many buyers are coming from really small studios, and there the lead artist is typically the founder and CEO as well. But if you look at it this way, you will see that the top 3 backgrounds of buyers, they are artistic and creative. So when you create a 3D model, you can think about that you are actually selling to someone who is also a 3D designer or art director or also with a very artistic background. We are also seeing producers and project managers that work closely with 3D buying the models as well. And also developers, they purchase the models as well, especially in the gaming niche. Now it's important to understand that these buyers, they typically know what they need. So if they need a 3D model of a dragon, they will typically look for the dragon, and you will not sell them a dinosaur or something like that. So it's our job in the marketplace to have as many dragons as possible. And as a 3D designer who is considering selling, you can really have an opportunity by identifying gaps in the market and creating models for those gaps. Now, talking about the other side, the supply side, we've also looked at who is selling on the marketplace, and I think this could be interesting for you because if you are considering to sell 3D models, you can identify yourself in one of these categories. So one category that we identified is studios, and this category is focusing on 3D models and selling 3D models as their core business. So they are very professional, they have huge portfolios, some of them even over 10,000 models, and their job is pretty much to create these models and constantly update their collection. They might have their own store and they sell their models there as well, and use the marketplaces as additional channels of revenue. Often, but not necessarily always, they specialize in a particular niche. So perhaps some of you know Evermotion. It's an architectural studio, and they have huge amounts of models for architectural visualizations. Other sellers, they specialize in cars, animals, and other niches. So these kind of studios, they typically can make 5, 6, maybe even 7-digit numbers per year. And this is just like a very, very professional approach at building this business. Another category that is also quite common on CGTrader is freelancers. So freelancers, they might be individuals who have built their portfolio during their free time or working as part of their projects. And they typically have from 5 to 200 models on sale they can be really successful if they find a successful niche. So some of them are specialized. Let's say this particular artist is specialized in gaming packs, and others find their own niche. For example, animals, anything that they can produce quality work in. So for freelancers, it's also quite important if they work in freelance projects. It's quite important to build the legal structure in a way that they can actually reuse some of the models that they do for custom work. In that way, they can actually finance the production of models and then have passive income on the side. Now, CGTrader is an open marketplace, and we also have students, beginners, people who just start their careers. In some cases, we see success stories in this category when they focus on really simple models. So sometimes there is a demand for simple models. This particular example is from an experienced artist who did this for a competition, but this type of models can be really successful if made for a specific purpose. And we, of course, encourage students to experiment, learn from feedback, present their models really well, and then they can really speed up their learning process. Finally, some of the sellers on CGTrader and elsewhere are people who have been very successful in their jobs as 3D artists, and they see this as a passive income opportunity, as well as a way to give back to the community. So some of these sellers, they produce really high quality models, and they are sometimes even bought for learning experience. They are also quite active in building their brands, so they might develop tutorials and promote themselves, provide some free models as well. So talking about selling on CGTrader, the first question that we always get is how much money can I really make? And we have a formula which you can calculate. Of course, there is one unknown, which depends on your portfolio quality and so on. So this formula looks like this. The most important aspect that we recommend the designers who submit models to increase is the number of models. The more models you have on CGTrader, the more visible your portfolio is, the more you will sell. And we always calculate the sales using a metric called liquidity rate, meaning how many models you sell per month divided by a total portfolio. For example, if a designer submitted 100 models and sells 10 models per month, then this designer's liquidity rate is 10%. Now you can see a huge variation in liquidity rates here, and I would say that 150% liquidity rate is a huge success, and it's really extraordinary, not that common. But I think if you have a liquidity rate of more than 10%, it's already a pretty successful approach. That means that 10% of your models sell each month. Now, talking about average price, it very much depends on the complexity of the model that you are building. What we have sold ranges from $5 per model to $1,500 per model, which is, let's say, if you build a full anatomy pack, then the price is, $1,500, and if it's just like a simple, axe or spoon or something like that, it can be just, $5 or $10. And then you multiply it by the royalty rate that we provide. So we focused on providing the best terms for designers, and we provide 80%, up to 80% royalty rates. And that's how you can estimate your revenue. If you are thinking, if you estimated, looked at the formula and decided that this is something that makes sense for you, I will share a few best practices about starting to sell. So number one thing that we advise our designers and sellers is upload more models. It might seem, sometimes designers think, okay, which model is the best? I will just upload that one model and it will sell like that. But the way marketplaces work is that you need to get visibility in the whole search and in the marketplace. There are thousands of models, and you also need to cast a wide net to catch the customers who are buying. So let's say if you are modeling animals, you need to have as many animals as possible, because the same customer once might buy a bird, the other time they will need a rabbit. The projects change very quickly, and that's why you optimize your chances of success if you upload as many models as possible. Of course, this is not easy, but this is something that we encourage, especially if you have these models on your hard drive and they are just sitting there and doing nothing. For really designers with really large portfolios, we can always help with the upload process, and we know that designers are very busy people and they don't really want to spend time that much time on publishing. They want to work on the next model. So we try to help as much as we can, and sometimes we publish the whole collection for the designer ourselves. The next advice that we give in terms of best practices is to have at least 4 or 5 formats. So you should have at least one native format, and then export to the most common exchange formats like FBX and OBJ. This is fairly not that complicated, so this is something that can be improved quite easily. Our customers, they typically come and search for, let's say, a 3D model, and they would choose the formats that they are looking for. And if it's not among these formats, then your model will not be shown. Now, these are a few things that probably you are familiar. It's just you need to think about the buyers. They need to just be able to plug and use that model immediately. So just make sure to take care of the topology. Put extra effort into naming and clarity of the structure of your model, and also do these basic things like place it correctly, make it forward-looking, use the UVs properly, and so on. So I think this is probably familiar for most of you. So this is just bear that in mind, that the customers are very annoyed when they need to just open the model and they need to fix some kind of mess. Okay, the other side of presentation of the models is describing and showing what's in the model well. So on CGTrader and other marketplaces, a lot of traffic is coming from search engines like Google, and it's very important to have unique descriptions, good tags, many tags that describe the model, and also strong title of the model. And talking about the images, the visual representation, this is also a fairly easy way to increase your sales. Just render more images from different sides and have at least one wireframe image so that the customer can see how it looks inside. We've looked at the data, and the difference between sales of models with 1 image versus with 10 images is 6 times. They sell 6 times more often. So that's a big difference that you can achieve fairly easily. Okay, now pricing. So on CGTrader, you can set your own pricing, and we get a lot of questions about how to do that. Sometimes designers want to price it on the basis of how much time they spend, so that's typically not a very good strategy. We typically recommend to look at the competition, look at how similar models are priced, and then see if your model is higher quality, lower quality than similar models, and then price based on that. But you should never just take the price for granted. always experiment, try, and see if, let's say, you decrease the price, maybe you make more of the same model per month, or if you increase the price, maybe the customers don't mind. So just always experiment with this. You can change the prices fairly easily. And if you sell on CGTrader, please enroll into discount programs. We found that they really work. The customers really appreciate that, and we really strongly recommend that. It's optional, but we recommend that. Now, there are a few other tricks that we also recommend. First of all, we recommend to share at least one model for free. So that gives the buyers insight into your portfolio and the quality of your models. And we looked at the data and found that the sellers who have at least one free model sell more of their paid models. We are open marketplace, so that means that you can communicate directly with the customer. If the customer needs more models or needs some custom work, then they can reach out directly to you. So of course this is probably pretty basic, but it's important. You need to communicate with clients well, and also this can bring you a lot of opportunities. And also promote your work not only in the marketplace but also outside. If you see in a forum that somebody is looking for a model, just share the link and do these things that you could get more visibility. So another question that is very common, and we get that a lot, is what should I model next? So if you already uploaded your portfolio, sometimes designers like to get a guidance on what's needed in the marketplace. So we looked at the marketplace data, and at the moment on CGTrader, these 5 categories are the most in demand. So we see animal, space, food, science, and character human models sell the most. So this is comparative, meaning that either the demand is higher or the supply is not as broad as it could be. So this is definitely an opportunity for you. But looking at just these categories, we understood that this is not enough data. And we actually worked for some time on a tool that would help you think about what to model next. So we actually yesterday launched a new analytics product that is on a keyword basis. So meaning that you can enter a keyword and understand what should you model related to that keyword. So let me try to give you a demo. So this is how it looks, and these are the top keywords that are the most in demand. So we look at several things. We look at number of models that are available on CGTrader, meaning competition. We look at prices. We look at the sales, and these are index numbers. So these are not real numbers, but they are indexed, and 100 is the top selling model, and 1 is the least selling model. We also look at searches because they indicate demand for models that might not be even on the marketplace yet. And we look at liquidity rate, which I mentioned before, which is the ratio of sales to models per month. And based on all this, we create a score of which keywords, working on which keywords is the best value for effort. So we take into account all these factors, and we look which keywords would likely bring you the most revenue. And then if you, let's say, look at these keywords, you see that robots maybe are interesting for you. You can click on robots, and you would get the more granular data to see what to model more precisely. So let's say here we can see that the biggest mismatch between demand and supply is something called bad robot. And this is even good advice to maybe call your robot bad robot, because I can imagine that some robots can be made bad pretty easily. And here you can also see what kind of competition and other models are available. So let's look at bad robot. Indeed, not so many. So just 3 models that are under this description. Now, if you want to think about how to build a bad robot, we also provide a direct link to reference images. This is just for your convenience. You can look at Google Images, basically, for that keyword. Okay, so this is the category data, which is the most broad keyword data. We can look deeper. We can look at subcategories, which then could be, mask or alien. Let's say I want to model alien. Then you can see what keywords are trending in the marketplace and what keywords are the most in demand. And finally, we can look at on a tag basis. So this is even more granular, and you can see that these are even more specific things that you can model. Let's say supermarket, and if you look at what's most interesting in the supermarket, it's supermarket shelves. Apparently just 5 models on CGTrader, and there are some searches, liquidity is high, so you can invest and model that. Do you have maybe a keyword we should try? Fly? Okay, so your best bet is housefly. Just 4 models here. And you can see the quality of these models. So 10 is top-notch quality, 1 is very low quality. So they have around 7, 2 of them, 1 4, 1 at 9. All right, so this is a tool that is available for everyone at CGTrader who uploads at least 5 models. So this is, a basic entry barrier, and you can actually use it and see it. Okay, now a few more comments about the future. So this is a bit more broad discussion on what we see from our marketplace and in our market. In general, we see a very bright future for 3D, and there are a few things that are driving this shift. So number one, of course, is virtual reality, augmented reality, and mobile VR, mobile AR. And Google, Facebook, Amazon, HP, pretty much everyone is investing into VR and AR. And I think it's a question of not if, but when it will happen. And in terms of the demand for the models, these new platforms, they will have huge demand for 3D models. And therefore, we see a bright future for 3D designers and 3D experts. Another trend that we are seeing is that 3D is becoming increasingly used by non-designers, non-3D designers. For example, Adobe recently launched a tool called Adobe Dimension, which is basically a 2D tool that uses 3D models. It used to be that only high-end professionals would use 3D models for their projects, but now you have someone who is building a video in YouTube and wants to insert some kind of animation, and 3D is becoming much more broadly used. Another trend that we are seeing is computer vision. So computer vision for training algorithms typically used images, but 3D models are much more convenient for that purpose because you can show how, let's say, a bird looks from all different angles and train a computer much better. Finally, we are hearing about a lot of experiments of using 3D in e-commerce, meaning product previews in WebGL and showing the models in 3D. So talking about what does it mean for us and for you as potential sellers, we see that one of the big outcomes of all this is that there is a need for standard of 3D models that could be used in a variety of situations. And it seems that PBR standard is becoming very, very promising. So PBR is basically solves the problems of shaders behaving differently in different environments. And currently, there is a huge demand of PBR models on CGTrader. They sell more than 3 times more than other models. Also, we are seeing constant growth of low-poly 3D models, demand for low-poly 3D models. They are selling more and they are growing rapidly, mostly driven by VR, AR, and gaming, especially as game engines such as Unity and Unreal became pretty much free to anyone who wants to build a game. So we are seeing more and more demand for real-time optimized content. And finally, which translates again to PBR, we see that since the models are used more and more by amateurs, they can't really go into the model, fix things, and so on. So therefore, models that can be just easily plugged into the software and used are becoming more important. And finally, what we believe at CGTrader is that 3D is the next wave of content. The web started with text and then went to images, and recently video has become more and more important. And we believe that the next computing platform will be 3D, will be spatial computing, and will use a lot of 3D models. So I think this is a really optimistic future for everyone. All right, and so if you're interested in selling 3D models, we have a special offer for you. So if you use this link to register on CGTrader, we give you an offer to sell for free for 3 months. So you will get 100% royalties. Everything you sell for will go directly to you. Thank you very much for your attention. And please, if you have any questions, feel free.